How's everybody doing today? Today we are going to discuss strategies for win-win custody. Now, I want to point out I did not entitle this section Strategies for Winning Custody. I want to reinforce the concept of winning when it comes to custody is a misnomer. There are no winners, and it's the wrong way to look at it. Divorce and custody is about dividing up a family. And your focus should be on doing what's best for your children. And that's going to require you to make compromises. When you come up with a plan for dividing the children between parents and households, it's not going to cause them psychological damage in the future. But instead, allow them to grow into well-adjusted, loving adults that lead successful lives, self-actualized adults. So that's our plan here. Now, funny I should say that, because what I've done is I put together an acronym here. It's called a successful plan, and this section, we're going to go over what each of the letters mean. Because this is what's going to help you get organized, get ready, and get into the action here. So remember that, a reasonable plan. It's going to be an outline of most of the major issues which you need to consider and strategies that you're going to need to embrace and obtain a fair custody arrangement that's win-win for you, for your children, and for your ex. Now, there are many considerations and steps to process. Each situation is different. The level of conflict between you and the other parent is going to determine how much each is willing to compromise. This will be paramount. Even if you both agreed on everything and there were no lawyers involved, the process would still take 6 months. If you can't agree on custody, it may take years to get through the process, and that's just the custody portion. But that comes first before you even get to the rest of the divorce. So no matter what your particular situation may be, there are 15 areas that you probably want to give due consideration. You want to think about them, you want to address them properly. And this is going to prepare you and put you in a favorable position with the judge and the evaluator, and to help you to do what's best for your children. So in order to make it easy to remember, once again, there's the acronym, a reasonable plan. These are 15 areas you need to focus on to obtain a reasonable custody arrangement. They're not necessarily in any kind of order of importance or how they should be implemented. Not every point will apply in every situation. But if you're just starting out and getting organized, it's good to help you evaluate where you are on each of these issues. Many of these are so important that I've devoted entire sections to, but here will be kind of a recap, or it'll be a good overview if we haven't gotten to that yet. So once again, this is meant to be big picture guidelines to evaluate where you are and to help you understand what you need to do to get started in going down the right path and push you in the right direction. Number 1, choosing the right attorney. In this, we have an entire section dedicated to this. Do you know what to look for? Do you know what questions to ask? How do you avoid the wrong attorney? This is going to be one of the most important steps, and like I said, we'll discuss this in another section, but get to know the attorney first. Find out their track record. Do they want to compromise? What's going to happen if bills get very expensive? What's their record for compromising? Do they know the judge? Do they know opposing counsel? All these things are going to be factors that weigh in on how the outcome is going to be determined. Next, R for reasonable. Do you have reasonable expectations? Do you understand the process? Do you understand the court system? You should do everything possible to settle, mediate. If you can, utilize a collaborative divorce team or a private judge. Fighting or refusing to find middle ground to settle is going to send you to trial, which is going to be the most expensive and least satisfying way to go. So you want to be reasonable and you want to do everything possible to settle. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Do you want to use your savings to send your kids to college or to send your lawyer's kids to college? Are you so angry that you don't care what happens to your kids? Are you so angry that you don't care if they end up going to therapy over your fighting? Divorce doesn't cause damage to kids. but the level of conflict between the divorcing parents does. So you need to be reasonable here. This is probably the single most important point. And to be reasonable, you probably have to have some degree of understanding of how the system works. What's going to happen, once again, a divorce is a court dividing up a family and a household. You're both going to end up compromising. You're not getting everything you want. Do you want to spend $25,000 in legal fees fighting over a couch that cost you $2,000? You know, you want to fight for a half of extra day a week and your kids end up in therapy over it. You got to take these things into consideration before anything else. So hopefully while you still have a clear mind and before you get too bogged down in the details and the anger, you can start thinking about this. Related to reasonable is E for educate. Educate yourself. Understand the process. And here's where a custody coach can really help. It's better if you don't have to ask your lawyer hundreds of questions. In fact, they're the worst person to ask for most custody-related things. It's going to be the most expensive and the least effective solution. Use your lawyer for legal matters, not for custody-related matters. They're not the best source when it comes to parenting issues, and they're not necessarily on the same side of the table as you, because they want to drag this out. They want to make as much money from you as possible. They're not looking to settle quickly. A in reasonable, avoid costly mistakes. Be proactive and not reactive. Think of this as a marathon, not a sprint. In another section, I'm going to list the 8 most common mistakes that parents make during a divorce and custody. Take a moment to become familiar with these so you can avoid making these mistakes. S is for strategic. What is your strategy? Are you taking the high road? Are you using inclusive language such as our child or our son or our daughter? You should never use the word my when referring to children in legal documents or when speaking to the judge or custody evaluator. In California, as well as many other states, the parent who's most likely to encourage frequent and continuing contact between the other parent and the child is the parent who's considered to be more suitable to be the primary custodial parent. So if you're territorial saying mine, you're already putting yourself in the wrong position. And if you act in ways to alienate your children from the other parent, this is going to adversely affect you in court, not to mention damage the children in the long run. So we're going to talk about alienation in another section as well. But parental alienation is a very, very bad way to go. It's the wrong road to go down. And once again, I understand. You're probably angry. If not, you're depressed or discouraged. But you have to think of this as logically and what's in the best interest of your children as possible. Next, the O in reasonable, organized. Be organized and be prepared. What I do, and you should do also, have binders for court documents and binders for custody-related documents. So you should set up at least a couple of binders at the onset because you're going to end up with a lot of paper. The court system is not electronic. Everything is still paper-driven. And you should include a checklist for custody that includes things like chronology of events, parent involvement logs, calendars, reference, and any other relevant document tables you have, lists, charts, schedules. All the stuff's going to end up there, so you may want to start getting organized about it. You may also want to clean up your record. If you have any financial issues pending, which include tickets or liens against you, anything you can do to diminish the potential case against you from blemishes that you have, maybe from your past, it's going to save you time and aggravation later on. Because all this stuff is going to come up, and it's all going to come out, and it's all going to be used against you. So start cleaning up these little silly things now, because they may be little to you, but your partner's lawyer can make them turn into very big things. N, negotiate and compromise. Once again, shockingly, neither parent will receive everything they want. So by definition, you both have to compromise. First, explore mediation. Explore collaborative divorce. These are the best options for you, your child, and your financial health. Be open-minded when negotiating. But ultimately, You should understand which issues are most important when negotiating, so you can position yourself so both of you have some wins. A, avoid, but be aware of, negative strategies and tactics. Once again, we'll make a whole nother section out of this later on, but many parents are going to lie. They're going to make up stories, especially about domestic violence, substance abuse, and sexual abuse. Don't ever put yourself in a position where such a tactic can legitimately be used against you. They may be used anyway, but if there's nothing to it, it's easy to get it thrown out. So even if it's not true, it can cause problems, which gives the accusing parent an advantage over you in custody. Also, remember, no matter what the accusations, no matter what comes up, you have to focus on the positive. So once again, we'll have a whole section devoted to that. B, be the better parent by taking parenting classes. This is a must for all fathers, for a lot of mothers too, because they are going to question all of your parenting skills. And if you can say, I've gone to a class, I understand this, I've gone through this, it's going to help you immensely. Because otherwise, especially for the guys out there, the fathers, this is a major area of attack that you're going to have to deal with. So be prepared. And you know what? It's going to help you with your children. Putting divorce aside for a second, you want to be a good father. You want to learn those parenting skills. You want to know that on your own, as a parent, your children will be fine. Okay, L, be involved in your child's life. Don't be a Disneyland dad. This means being involved in daily activities, as well as sporting events and major life events. You need to be helping, taking them to games after school, taking them to practice, picking them up from practice. Most kids have a lot of activities during the week. If you're not part of that schedule, you're missing out on a lot. So you need to be involved. Okay, E for evaluator. Do you have the right judge, and do you know how to choose the right evaluator? Now I'm going to put both of these in the same category, the judge and the evaluator. You can't usually change the judge unless both parties agree to it. Yet, this is going to be one of the most critically important factors in determining the outcome of your case. You can file a case where the judge may be more favorable to your situation. In Los Angeles, for example, downtown tends to be more favorable for fathers. Not always, not every situation, but it's something to consider. Make sure you have the right judge. Now, I've talked about this in the attorney section, but also this is huge. Try to pick an attorney that knows the judge, because if they have a rapport, it will make all the difference. Even if you have a good attorney and they don't know the judge, that's going to hurt you. Now, E for evaluator, we're going to look at the evaluator, not the judge. Now, when it comes to picking an evaluator for a custody evaluation, chances are neither one of you are going to know them. I mean, unless you've been part of the system before. So, but look closely at their record, look at their outcomes, talk to them. This is very tricky. I've been through 2 evaluations, and they may come across as good people, but they're going to say some horrible things about you. So you need to put yourself in the best possible light, and the more research you can do on this, the better. But I'll also say evaluators are not your friend. And they may come across as being friendly and informal, but when you see that report, you're like, oh my God. So choose your evaluator carefully. Choose an attorney that knows the judge. Work with the judge and do the right thing in front of the judge. Because the people who evaluate you, these are the people who are going to make or break you. Okay, P for plan. And in this sense, I use it for parenting plan or custody agreement or custody arrangement. You're going to need both. A parenting plan is a more elaborate version of a custody agreement. Because a custody agreement is usually just going to lay out the scheduling and a couple of other things. A parenting plan is going to have a lot more in it about what religion do you want them to be raised, what happens in emergency situations, about their name, every detail you have. The sooner you start a parenting plan, the better understanding you're going to have of all the issues in your child's life. Now, you have to plan for these. You have to be aware of them, and you have to tell the court what you want to do about it. To increase the chances of getting what you want, it helps to think through all the issues, lay them out, and ideally before the other parent, because then you put them in a position where they have to respond to it, or things they haven't thought about. So this is the absolute key. I've given you a great example of a parenting plan that I did myself, which was called the Rolls-Royce of parenting plans, and it actually helped me tremendously. So I want to share that with you. L is for liability. I'm going to use this in two different ways. A, what's the downside of every decision you make? Financially, that's easy. It's bankruptcy. And a lot of you, I'm sorry to say, if you're going to fight and not compromise, you're going to BK. You're going to file for bankruptcy. My attorney used to tell me that. I used to laugh like, you got to be kidding. But now that I've been through this process twice, I get it. So watch out for the liability. What are the liabilities? Well, how about the stress on your children? Do you want to put them into therapy? How about a loss of job? How about the loss of your children? Loss of financial security? All these things are not uncommon in divorce and custody proceedings. And many times they can be minimized if you just try to work through the issues instead of taking a non-compromising emotional stance. I hate them. I'm going to make them pay for what they did. She cheated on me. She did this. He did that. Forget that. We know that. That's why you're getting divorced. But now you have to be an adult. Think about what's best for your kids. So you got to get non-emotional about it. You got to take a logical perspective. And the best perspective is what's best for them? How can I get out of the system as soon as possible? And the best way to do that is to compromise. And the best way to do that is to avoid going to trial. Believe me, the biggest expense in a divorce is going to be legal expenses. And it destroys many families, many people personally. So you don't want to get involved in fighting over, this is yours and that's mine. Forget it. None of that's worth it. 10 years from now, you look back and go, oh my God, I can't believe I don't even like that couch. I spent $20,000 fighting over it. Okay. A is for available. What I mean by that is be available as a parent. This is the secret ingredient for raising confident, well-adjusted kids. Spend twice as much time and half as much money. Now this may mean you have to alter your work schedule, but most bosses are going to understand. Spend time with your children. It's not about spending money on them, it's about being with them and being there for them. And the N in the plan is for never give up on your child, even if things look glum or don't initially go your way. Now this is especially true if you're being alienated from your child by the other parent. The process is long and arduous. There are going to be wins and losses, but if you do the right thing, then someday you'll be rewarded, and your child will know the truth. But more importantly, raising your children right is the most important thing you're ever going to do. When you're ready to kick off this planet and you look back on what you did, what are you going to say that you were proud of? And with some exception, most people are going to say it's their children, it's their family. It's not about money, it's not about success. So if you're going through a divorce, that can critically alter the path of that. So you want to make sure you do the right thing there. Now, there's one more strategy I want to give you before we end here. It's going to motivate your children to spend more time with you. Now, I say this partially tongue-in-cheek because it's a relatively new phenomena, but sadly, there's truth to it. Either consciously or unconsciously, kids will gravitate towards households with, how can I say this, better, faster, more reliable internet. If they have more access to the internet, they're going to be happier. If they have less access, bad internet, they're going to be less happy. Now, it's sad, and once again, I'm not in any way suggesting that you placate your kids by saying, oh, you can play video games at my house, or you can be on your phone all day. But it's a crazy thing that's grown up in the last 5 years or so, and it will be an important factor, so be mindful. It's an unfortunate sign of the times in which we live. Take it for what it's worth. But keep all this in mind when you're setting up your new household, because that's what's going to make them happy or unhappy. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. As I said, most of this we're going to go over in detail in other sections, so This is Joe Pastore with Platinum Method Coaching and with My Custody Coach, which is a subsidiary of Platinum Method Coaching. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, joe@platinummethod.coaching.com. Until then, make it a great day.